Hello and welcome again to this week's topic in the Transformation Dynamics series. Today we're going to talk about project dynamics, so everything that involves the dynamics of new product and service development, and we're going to look into the dynamic implications of that for our transformation initiatives. So the key question is, why are projects always running over schedule and over budget? Or in other words, what we're going to talk about is, while you are planning something like this, where you believe you have a straight line progress in your project that you're planning, and you're hitting your planned scope, in other words, the full scope of the project, the budget that you have laid out, and you are meeting the milestones of the product release, what you might be getting might look actually something more like this, which is a little bit more irregular, but most importantly, it indicates a huge schedule delay and overrun, and in most cases also a quite significant problem with the budget, with the effort expended. So we're going to take a look into the dynamic implications of these problems here. Now, the dynamics of the project side will involve the feedback structure, of course, but also the dynamic behavior. And we're going to take a look at some planning tools. And as always, there will be more stuff available in the extended content base and the briefing center than we can cover here in this live webinar. So hi again, my name is Thomas Wittig. I am the CEO at Wittigonia, and you can reach me via these Twitter handles, for example, with @Wittigonia or @Wittig. So the purpose of today's sessions is really to advance our skills and the skills of managing project dynamics. And we will come to that in a few moments, what we mean by that. So the key questions that we will ask is, what are the dynamics in development of products and services to begin with, and how do they impact performance and success of our initiatives? And how can we better manage these dynamics? What we will be able to cover here in the free webinar today is just to explain what the feedback structures are in play and how they play out over time. And I will walk you through some key business scenario simulations. And as always, there will be more stuff, more ideas, how-to discussion tools and templates available in the dedicated briefing center. Just for orientation, we are here this week. So we are in the week number 2. As I said before, the week 0 doesn't count. That's really the kickoff where I introduced the base concepts. Last week, we talked about strategy and how to define projects and target settings. And today we're going more into development of new services and products. And keep in mind, this is always from a dynamics point of view. While I will fold in some tools that you may or may not know along the way, we're basically talking about the dynamics. And dynamics always means change over time. And please note that there's always a second iteration. So today we're going to introduce some of the basic ideas and concepts, and we're going to take it a step further in the second iteration. So what happens each week? Each week we're going to have a free online live webinar with a Q&A, live Q&A like this one here today. And there is extended content and services also available in our dedicated briefing center for this. So we can always cover a lot of things here in the live webinar, and each week there's also going to be a great discount down opportunity available to get access for the remainder of the session to the extended content base and the extended briefings. The replays of the live webinars, as always, will be available, and there's also a Facebook group that you can join. All the details are typically on the website or on the briefing center website, the landing page there. Now, in the Briefing Center, what I'm offering there is additional content and additional short video briefings of key strategies and tactics, along with some business simulations. As you have probably found out already, I'm a big fan of working with business and dynamic business simulations, simply because this is advancing our understanding at the lowest possible cost. So when we can see how things play out over time, we don't have to spend money and time in order to figure out if it's a good idea or not. So we can basically separate the good ideas from the not so prudent ideas. And most importantly, in the extended content, I'm also offering a group coaching via discussion groups, live briefings, etc. And there are downloadable tools and templates. So I uploaded already a couple of the tools we talked about last week. So you can now access the tools and download the templates as well. There's a little description along with it so that you can just adopt these. These are typically Excel or PowerPoint templates. And last week, I also included some bonus content, which was about how to develop a business case. So that's an own small mini course in itself that you can take, and it's bundled within the extended content. So you can take advantage of that at no additional cost. Now, what we're going to cover today is basically, I want to get to a few things. So first, I'll go into much detail about what are the hidden feedback structures, especially when it comes to development projects. And here we are not only talking about, let's say, coding of projects, but every project has a certain scope, a certain amount of work that needs to be done. And when we can accomplish this work, we can release the project and it can go into the marketplace. But oftentimes there are hidden dynamics behind it, which prevent the straight forward passage there. So I'm walking you through a base scenario, so without any complications, and then we're just looking at one scenario, which is very, very typical for most of the transformation projects, and that is when you have to compete with resources, or have to compete for the resources with another business. So, for example, with an ongoing service operations, or when you try to productize your business with the existing staff. And there are many more things that we can do, and I will cover some of the extended scenarios in the briefing center. And always there will be some tools. I'm planning to provide a tool about and a special briefing about how to identify and prioritize customer requirements. This is, of course, a key point in developing new products and services. Also, let's say a very handy template about scoping and version planning. And then I will talk a little bit more about how to do reality checks and feasibility checks of a project, which is typically one of the most important roadblocks that people encounter. Now, keep in mind, we have this great discount down. So this week, the discount down is set at 80%, which means that you can get a huge discount on the access to the entire full program. As you probably figured out, the program is building up during the course of this 10-week program. And now we are basically discounting down the free access. So now you can get 80% off the price, but it's only available here in the live webinar. So if you watching the live stream from somewhere else, from one of the web pages, make sure you sign into the webinar, because only here we can display the free offer. Now, if you miss it this week, this is not a problem. There will be another chance coming next week. And but keep in mind, then it's probably going to be set at 70%. So the earlier you can get in, the better price you get, and you have full access to the entire program. Now, what if you don't like it? No worries. There's a 30 days money back guarantee, so no problem with that. No questions asked. You just cancel the one-time purchase, and that's it. Basically, how it works is that you sign up here in the webinar, and it will take you to a landing page, and there you will see already the the discounted access. Now, if you want to explore more about this, you go to academy.wittigonia.com, and there you see this 10-week course. You click there, and there you find much more information than we can cover here. All right, back to the topic. So again, to pick up where we started, we are looking at all these areas of transformation dynamics, and our special focus today is about this sector here, where we talk about development of products and services. And on purpose, I do not really distinguish between products and services. Of course, sometimes software products require certain technical work and coding and quality assurance, but oftentimes it's very similar to developing a whole new service. And there's more to a product than just coding, of course. The other areas we will touch in the first round also, which means organization dynamics, supply chain, there's going to be a special session, and of course market dynamics, which lead us to customer success. And I will make cross-references in each of these areas. And then in the second round, when we make a second round in this great wheel of fortune, we will talk a little bit more about the interdependency. So for example, what happens if the organization is not motivated or engaged in order to carry the product to the market, or if there's a morale issue, how does it impact product development, and so on. So these are the key scenarios here. Now, this is, let's say, a little bit more explicit feedback structure, but I'm not going to talk too much into detail. Instead, we're going to evolve it step by step. But just the key takeaway here is, of course, when we have a product to sell, we can generate more revenue, which enables us to hire more salespeople, which gets us more customers, and then we realize more sales. So that's a virtuous cycle. On the other hand, in order to get to a product which we can sell, we need to, of course, get some developers or product managers and so on, which are driving the product innovation. And then there's a key point here, because the product innovation also leads to perceived progress, which secures our organizational support. In other words, people are really more keen on enjoying development or becoming a salesperson in the new effort, etc. Now, there's, of course, another implication. The more revenue we have, the more we can drive into innovation. So these are major positive feedback loops, which means that once they are in motion, they create more success to the successful, which drives then steady and nonlinear growth for us. But often they are interrupted, or they can go backwards. And then, for example, if the progress is perceived as not so favorable, the organizational support is in danger, which means that you really have a hard time engaging developers or finding salespeople or marketing people and so on, or people adopting the new innovation in the organization and carrying it to the marketplace. So these are some of the dynamic consequences. Now, our topic today is more about developing. And again, when I say developers, this is a whole range of different roles, including people who can drive, let's say, software development, but also product managers, requirements definition specialists, marketing specialists, and of course, growth marketing specialists, who are also involved in the development of new initiatives and products. Now, to take this now step by step, the ideal scenario would be that we have a development effort going on, which means we are adding more people to the development effort, and then at some point in time the product releases, and we have let's say a sales team which can carry it into the marketplace and drive a customer base. Now, what's happening here on the development side, as I mentioned before, we basically lay out a plan, and we say, okay, this is 100% or 100 days or whatever of our scope, which means that we believe that 100 person days will go into the development of this new product, and it will take us about 11 months. So this is kind of the forecast that you typically see. Now, once the product is in motion, then it's around month 11, or maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later, the sales effort kicks in. So which means that people starting selling, we're initiating marketing initiative, but in most cases, it cannot really start beforehand. So that's the real implication. So what are we doing if this project is delayed or not meeting the targets? Then we have, of course, an immediate implication on this uptake in the marketplace. So that's why I think it's very important to understand the connections between the two areas. And the question is, of course, what happens often between the planning and development and the go-to-market phase of a product? Because that seems to be the key red zone where a lot of projects are falling through. And so let's take a look at that, what's happening here. Now, the development of projects, is it really a straightforward process? So that's the question I'm posing here. So, of course, at the beginning, we're adding scope to a project, which means that we know how much work needs to be done. And if we do the work correctly, we have completed a portion of the scope this is making up this project. And then eventually we can release it either as a full project or step by step to the marketplace. But most of the time we will reach a certain threshold and then we release it to the marketplace. Now, here comes the first implication, of course. So as we are developing the project and as we are completing work, more feedback will become available. And that usually, in most of the project, leads to a change in scope, and most of the time in adding scope, where somebody says, oh, you know what, we have thought about this new software as a service project, but we really haven't thought about how we engage, let's say, the partner channel in this. So we need to have, let's say, a partner center or an analytics portion for the partners. Without that, we absolutely cannot go live. So that is a typical scenario. It adds scope here. But often, and note, of course, that there's a time delay between them. And that's very important when we talk about the dynamic changes later. Now, the other scenario is when the product is in the market and you realize, oh, the customers really have a hard time, let's say, getting up to speed. So we get more feedback from a project, again, with the time delay, and that is adding scope to our product, often after the fact, after we have released it. Now, if we are smart, we probably have a pre-release program, so we get the feedback much sooner. That's really the key here. Now, how does work get done? Of course, we need to have development staff, and the amount of development staff and the total capacity really depends on the schedule on one hand, so by when do we want to accomplish something, and the amount of work that needs to be done. Okay, so that is really defining how many people we need to have. Then, of course, the productivity of development staff is also determining how many people we need. Do we need 10 senior people who can do maybe twice the amount of work than 20, let's say, normal skilled people who just take longer to do the work? And then, of course, this impacts our rate of the work that is being performed. Now, this is, of course, let's say, a balancing feedback loop. So the more we add development staff, the further it reduces our work that needs to be done. Now, the next implication or complication here comes in because typically when people are involved and every time we do a project, it's not going to be perfect. So we have to assume that there is a certain error fraction. And believe me, this is one of the key areas which I'm still missing from a lot of projects, that they are articulating explicitly what is the assumption about the error fraction. Why is that important? Because the work that doesn't get done correctly, of course, produces some amount of work with errors. And so we are, let's say, very busy performing our work, and then we produce along the process an enormous amount, probably, of undiscovered rework. And just through the act of discovering the rework with a certain time delay, so for example, through testing or through integration into the final product or through customer feedback, we realize that we have built in some errors into the product, which again then is adding to the work that needs to be done. And so here you can see already a dynamic structure that is making it difficult for us to just go straight forward and developing the project, because we constantly have to deal with errors, of course. And here is the last implication that I want to cover today before we go into some simulations here, and that is about the resource availability. Now, when we talk specifically about transformation projects, transformation by the nature of the definition means that you have some kind of a business model or an existing company or organization, and you're trying to accomplish something with the existing organization. So turning that, for example, from a pure service-oriented business into a product-oriented or platform-oriented business. And what most companies then chose to do is they take the senior resources, or sometimes only the just available resources, which are not utilized, and they are drawing from this resource pool in order to staff the development projects. And we will see later on what the implications here are. So now, before we go into the more complicated scenarios, I just want to walk you through the base scenario, which is a simplified case study. And then from there, we are going to make a change to this scenario, and I will show you what the implications are. And this gives us already a better understanding of what is happening here. So let's assume, for example, that we are developing a new product or service, which has a scope of 1,000 person days. Which means basically that we can have, let's say, 100 people working for 10 days or one person working for 1,000 days, whatever the strategy is. But there's only so much work that we can accomplish, of course, and resource constraints. So we have to pay attention to that. Then secondly, this is a business unit. There's a business unit which is delivering the development work, and the staffing is determined as an entire capacity, which means that we need people for example, service delivery, pre-sales, technical delivery, and development work. And we're discovering along the way how many people we need in total, and then we allocate them to the respective work type. So in our case, it would be to development effort. And then the developers are only allocated when staff is available, of course, right? So it doesn't help to wish for more. If the developers are not there, you cannot produce any work. And we say that development is kicking off in month 5 or 6. And then the go-to-markets can only start after the product is released. Of course, if we don't have a product, we can't go sell. So here's what's happening then. So first, the project is starting. As we said, we are introducing a new scope of about 1,000 people. Some of the work gets already accomplished in the first month. And then the work is being done according to this pattern here. Now, as we are hiring more staff, the staff is becoming available. And according to the amount of work that is being there, which is the original work plus the rework that we discover, we are rolling more and more of the available staff into the project. Okay, so again, keep in mind, this is not taking from existing staff. This is assuming that we bring in new staff. And you see here this small mountain of people. So we have a peak of almost 9 or 10 people during the month 12. And then they are rolling off the project as work is being accomplished. Now, that leads to this pattern here in development work, which basically says that we take about 22 months in order, 22 minus 6, so 16 months to develop this project, because we are starting here somewhere in month 6. And as you may notice, this is, again, not a straight line as we had assumed. So at the end, there's always a remainder of work that needs to be done, but people are already rolling off the project. Now, The hidden dynamics that are in play, which I explained before, is first of all the rework discovery, which is driven by the error fraction. So we assume that a certain error fraction is kicking in. And so there's an amount of work that contains errors. And initially our error fraction is set to 5%. And as we discover more and more rework, the amount of work that contains errors is actually going up. And so this is flowing into our bucket of work that we have to do, which is making it a little bit more challenging for us. And at the end of the day, we have, again, we have released the product in month 22. That's what we can see here. We have accomplished the entire scope. So when the scope was reached, the product can be released. But here, this light blue curve indicates also the amount of effort we have put in the project, which is quite a bit higher than we have accomplished. And this is driven by the inherent dynamic of the project, of the rework cycle, which is accounting for a lot of schedule and overrun in most of the projects that you can see. So we'll cover that at the end of this session, what we can do about it. Now, of course, when the product is released, we can start with market preparation. And here we have a business which is leaning on, let's say, word of mouth. So there's quite an accelerating uptake here. But just to let you know, so this can only proceed here in month 22, and which is typical for, let's say, a business where we're not having a one-to-one sales. At first, it seems like nothing is happening in the beginning, and once customers are joining our customer base, the growth is accelerating. This will be a key topic when we talk about market growth, of course. Now, the key question now is, what happens when there is a competing resource demand? In other words, what happens when we are trying to draw the resources from, for example, a service business? So let's say we have this scenario. We have a service business, and this is very typical for a service business. So you have an up and down in the number of customers. Because they might not be steady, they might have different order rates, etc. And of course, when we are running lower on customers, we make an effort here to win customers, which means that we spend more time on pre-sales efforts to bring in new projects, and then the customers are in the pipeline, and then we are delivering the work. And as we're delivering the work, the resources become available. Now, why is this important? Because there are times when it would be prudent to leverage the existing staff, which is not utilized. For example, here in all these green areas where the pipeline demand is really low. But when the pipeline is really hot and there are a lot of new customers coming in, then this business is giving priority to the ongoing business, which means that during those times, we cannot get access to the resources. And there you see we have a much different pattern now of development staff rolling into the projects. And as you can already tell, it's taking much longer because they are much longer engaged, and only when we have time, when the time permits, for example, here in this time period around month 18, we can take some of the people. So we can take here a little bit more than 5 or 6 people, roll them into the project. They can do development work before they actually go on doing their other work in the service delivery or field service organization. And so this, let's say, rocking motion leads to a pattern like this. And here's the original run, and here is our new development scenario. And there you can see that we are running sideways here at the times when we have to roll people off the project, with the result that our project release is much delayed by about 30 months or so. Not an uncommon scenario. A lot of people are speaking here about the rule of thumb that it takes at least 2 to 3 times longer when you are running a project in an existing organization. And sometimes it may never see really the marketplace. Now, again, what is happening here on the product release side, we have accomplished our scope here of 1,000 1,000 person days. and we have slightly run over budget, and our product is releasing here fairly late. And what that means in terms of the market and capturing the available market, I'm showing here the picture from a simulation. This is the original run, the base scenario, and here you can see a much accentuated delay in capturing the customer. So this is a key scenario. Now, this was meant to be an introduction into the dynamics of projects, of developing new products and services. Of course, the development of new products is fairly complex, and it rarely results in a straight line forecast or a linear work progress, as we have seen here. And there's a good way that we can simulate this with a system dynamics model. Now, the hidden structures, the hidden feedback structures really impact productivity and progress and financial aspects. So the first thing is that we have to become aware and understand what is in motion here. And upfront, I want to give you a couple of ideas and tips in how to deal with these project settings. First, it's really mandatory that you review the projects and ensure that there is a feasible plan, a realistic plan, and that you do reality checks. Now, in the extended content, I will show you some examples how to do this and what to look for. Secondly, you need to articulate the plan of work and the scope of work very carefully. So that means that you need to select very consciously what can the organization digest given the resourcing situation. And as we will see in some, let's say, other scenarios and sensitivity simulations, that's not an easy answer. So we have to simulate that a little bit. I don't think there's an algebraic solution for this, and that's why the simulation work comes in very handy. Now, number 3, factor in rework. Pretty much in 99% of the cases when I'm asking project managers or let's say transformation leads, what is their assumption about rework that they have to fold in? They typically say, oh, we assume that everything is going all right because we know our stuff, etc. That is usually rarely the case. And rework and the error fraction itself is undergoing, let's say, dynamic changes throughout a project. For example, when you hire new staff, the new staff may have a higher error fraction than the existing staff, or vice versa. It really depends on the existing resourcing and skill levels of the organization. Number 4, set clear guidelines for resource allocation. Now, if you're depending on the resource and if you want to make a transformation project a priority, it's absolutely important to make sure that there is a resource, not only a resource commitment, but that the rules of engagement are very clear. Otherwise, you will have an in-house fighting going on. And already in the last session, when we talked about how to build this into your financial plan, I gave you already a tool that you can use. But this point is going much further, because you have to agree with your operational managers what are the policies and guidelines, and when can people roll on and off the project. Otherwise, it's going to be an uphill battle for the team which is doing transformation projects. Number 5, if possible, work with a dedicated delivery unit. And this can be, let's say, people from within the business. This can be an outsource that can be engaged. But I need to issue here a note of caution. You need to be aware of the unfavorable consequences. So when you take the best people and put them into the delivery unit for driving new product development, this has implication on, for example, your service delivery or your normal course of delivery. And it can have an organizational implication that you need to be aware of, an unfavorable implication. Now, there's more to say about these, and there will be much more to say in the extended modules. So what I was thinking to cover now in the extended modules, what I have grayed out here is only the topics that we covered today. So there are more scenarios that we should be interested in. For example, What happens if we change the scope of a project during the course of the project? Then what happens if the market is evolving much faster than we can ship our new products or services? How do we deal with agile projects? Are they really helping us in accomplishing more? And what happens when the information is decaying? So every solution, every product has, let's say, a certain lifetime, and we need to be mindful what happens when the project is ready for a renewal or renovation. And there will be tools and checklists, and also something that I talked here about, so how to scope and how to do feasibility checks for the projects. Now, keep in mind what we have going on is the 80% discount in this live webinar today. Now, if you miss it, there will be another opportunity next week, about 70%, but of course, the sooner the better, and you'll be part of the building a story here. And keep in mind, you can keep the access to the resources until 2 months after September. So I would say about by the 31st of October, that would be the end of the full course. But the live parts and the live coaching, the live webinars will go until early September. Again, a reminder, here's how you get there. Just want to say this before we go into the Q&A. And keep in mind, there's a 30 days money back guarantee, so you can just check it out safely. And if it's really not for you, you can cancel the purchase anytime. Okay, so let's see what we have today in terms of the questions in the live webinar. All right, let's see. We have a couple of people here. And one question is about the project dynamics. How can we do this in a spreadsheet? And is there an Excel sheet for this? A question which I typically get, because most people use Excel to run their business, their entire business sometimes. There's only so much that you can do in Excel. The modeling of dynamic changes over time requires that we consider feedback loops. So you've seen me talking about this. You've seen me presenting you some of the feedback loops. Behind these, let's say the models and the charts that I show you are simulation models, which involve mathematical equations. And you cannot really do this in Excel because it will give you a lot of errors for, let's say, recurring or recursive patterns in your Excel sheet. So we're using a special software for this, and that's why I make these simulations available in this way to you. Okay, question here. What is a good practice to review projects? Now, again, it's a good question because before you get started on a project and before you allocate the resources, it should be absolutely clear. Is the scope feasible? Is it what the customers are requiring? Can we do it with our organization? If not, how are we going to do it? And do we have the resources? So these are only some of the questions. Again, in the extended section, I will give you some checklists and some ideas in how to review the projects. And this is based on my personal experience in the industry and also from consulting projects where people say, okay, we have a set of projects here going on. Can you review us, help us review the projects, and so that in a way that we can also learn from this. So, but again, I will give you the starting checklist that you can work with. So here's a question about assumptions. How do I know if my assumptions are correct? Great question. First thing I should say is when we are making assumptions, let's say this way, when we are selecting a project and we're carrying out a project, a transformation project, we have implicit assumptions anyways, okay? Because we have certain hopes, beliefs, or assumptions, you know, what is doable or not doable. Now, this act of simulation and planning is forcing us to making the assumptions transparent. And this is great in order to have a strategic and operational dialogue. So I would encourage you to make your assumption transparent, and fold them into the scenarios. And if you want to come forward and throw a bunch of, let's say, sample scenarios into our live discussion or into the extended discussions, I'd be happy to show you what the model is telling us about these scenarios. Secondly, the second part to the answer is, let's say you have a certain idea about the productivity. For example, you would say that a developer can accomplish a certain amount of work within a day or a week, but there might be variation. And what we do in this case is that we do a sensitivity analysis, or specifically a so-called Monte Carlo analysis, where we are establishing a range for a parameter, for example, worker productivity, and then we're doing a variation. And I should show you an example in the extended work and see what the implications are. Now, why is this important? Because it really helps us to get an idea about the range of possible outcomes. Because rarely is, let's say, the parameter very exactly the way we have planned it. It's typically in the range plus minus X%. So by throwing in these ranges into a simulation, we get a sensitivity analysis. And this helps us to better understand the risk and return profile of our projects. One of my favorite topics. We definitely talk more about this as we go along, and I might actually give you a first glimpse of it in this extended section for this week. Okay, so that's about it. I promised always to stay within 30 to 40 minutes roughly for the webinars. As always, you can watch the replay. For those who have signed up in the email, you will actually get a link to the replay. You will see the webinar also with a way to answer questions. And of course, for those who sign up for the extended course, there are discussion forums and things like that. So you can submit questions there or suggest simulation scenarios that we should talk about. Having said that, I wish you all the best with your projects and, of course, happy transformation. Goodbye.